with their nails done now.
After that we see Shanghai, which is being evacuated by Monarch and police department. They are using buses, helicopters and even usual cars which are leaving city. Then we see beach, where the helicopters are picking people to take them to the safe places. Then we see aircraft carrier about 2 kilometers away from the beach. We see soldiers running on aircraft carrier and just minding their jobs. But then one of the soldiers sees something in the sea. He stands at the border of the aircraft carrier to have a better look. And he sees back of Gyrosaurus, which is swimming towards aircraft carrier. Soldiers get scared and he calls another soldiers to look at Gyrosaurus. Then soldiers get scared and they call with their walkie-talkies and they say that situation has got much worse and they should hurry up. After that we see Gyrosaurus, which is about to crash aircraft carrier, but then he just drowns himself and he swims under the aircraft carrier and he heads towards Shanghai, which still hasn't finished evacuation. Then soldiers on aircraft carrier call the attack helicopters and they say that target is going to be in Shanghai in less than a minute. Then we see military helicopters which are flying up from the aircraft. After that we see beautiful shot of top view of helicopter which is flying above the sea, and we see another 31 helicopters with it, and they are chasing Gyrosaurus. Then helicopters started dropping rockets at Gyrosaurus, which was halfway in the sea. Gyrosaurus drawn a little bit and bombs exploded on the sea, and it didn't have any serious effect on Gyrosaurus. Then helicopters started speeding up, and they started shooting mounted guns at Gyrosaurus. They knew that it would not have any effect, but they had to do something. Then we see that Gyrosaurus is causing a little flooding, tsunami, in city around 15 feet high, and the water gets into the city, and the flooding took the 2 buses which were trying to leave the city. Then we see Gyrosaurus rising from the water and he is roaring. Then we see soldiers which are shooting RPGs from the roof, but Gyrosaurus doesn't really care. He takes a look of the city which is pretty big, and he starts running towards another end of Shanghai. We see fighter jet which joins the fight, and it starts shooting at Gyrosaurus. Gyrosaurus tries to catch it with mouth but Jet escapes. Then Jet starts flying towards him again. Gyrosaurus swings his tail and he hits Jet. Jet crashes to building and it gets destroyed. Gyrosaurus feels satisfied and he continues running. Then Gyrosaurus sees airport and he runs towards it. Then we see George, which is sitting in helicopter which is flying towards Shanghai. He seems little worried, but then he comes on mood and he looks from the window of helicopter and he sees Shanghai which is on fire and he gets more scared. Then we see 9 helicopters which are chasing Gyrosaurus in the city, and they are shooting at him. Gyrosaurus jumps over a building and 2 helicopters crash to it. Now there are 7 left. They chase Gyrosaurus in the streets and it's hard for them. Then Gyrosaurus swings his tail and he drops another helicopter. Now 6 left. Gyrosaurus finally makes it to the airport, and we see him jumping on the open field of planes, and he is roaring on the background of the destroyed city. Then we see people at airport, which still couldn't get in the helicopters and buses, and they are watching Gyrosaurus with scared faces. Gyrosaurus notices them and he starts going towards them, but then Kong jumped out from city and he pushed Gyrosaurus in the face. Gyrosaurus got exhausted and he fell on the ground. Then we started standing up and he saw Kong, which was standing in front of him, and he was holding axe. Gyrosaurus got scared but he had to fight. He stood up and he roared at Kong with so angry face. Kong roared back and he started going towards Gyrosaurus. Gyrosaurus jumped up and he did kangaroo kick to Kong. Kong soon recovered and he hit his axe to Gyrosaurus in the leg. Gyrosaurus got angry and he bit him in the neck and he started dragging him to the city. Kong tried to resist but Gyrosaurus dropped him on one of the buildings and whole building fell on Kong. It made Kong really weaker, but he tried to stand up anyway. But Gyrosaurus steps on him and he doesn't let him stand up. Kong tries more and more and Gyrosaurus plugs his sharp toes in his chest. It's so painful for Kong. Then Kong takes his axe and he hits Gyrosaurus in the leg. Gyrosaurus gets so damaged and he falls on the ground. Kong stands up and he tries to hit his axe to Gyrosaurus, but Gyrosaurus jumps away and Kong misses. After 3 seconds Gyrosaurus does his kangaroo kick again and Kong falls on the ground, but he stands up soon and he gets hit by the tail of Gyrosaurus. But then Kong caught his tail and he threw him at one of the buildings. Gyrosaurus stood up and he looked at Kong with so angry face. Kong also looked at him and he threw his axe at Gyrosaurus. Gyrosaurus dodged and he didn't get hit. Then he went towards Kong. Kong also went towards him and they clashed. Kong was punching him and Gorosaurus was biting him as usual. Then we see Monarch helicopters which are shooting Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus hits tail to one of the helicopters and helicopter falls on Kong's face. Kong got angry and he started punching Gorosaurus harder. Then he finally got out from his jaws and he hit him in the neck. Gorosaurus felt a bit exhausted and then Kong threw him away. Gorosaurus fell really painfully. Then he stood up and Kong started roaring so loudly at him he roared back. After that we see the base of the Rallo where they are meeting in church-like center and Bill Chapman is telling the people that Kong won't win against Gorosaurus. But everyone is still angry and they are asking how one Gorosaurus stands a chance. Then Bill told them there is something you don't know. Then everyone got quiet and they asked what is it? And Bill said something that will increase the chances of Gorosaurus winning. We have secret drugs and elixirs that we will drop on Gorosaurus using cargo airplane. And when Gorosaurus smell them and most likely swallows them they will make his blood cells 2 times stronger. And this is the key ingredient to winning. Then one of the men in meeting center said prepare the cargo plane. After that we see Kong and Gorosaurus which are still fighting each other ruthlessly. Kong punches him in the face but Gorosaurus hits him with his tail. Kong then takes his axe and he hits him in the neck and it knocks Gorosaurus on the ground. Then Kong was about to hit him again. When Gorosaurus jumped away Kong threw his axe at him and he hit Gorosaurus in the leg which of course was so painful for Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus took the axe out of his leg with his mouth and he started running towards the sea. Kong caught him through his tail and he threw him back to the city. Gorosaurus stood up and he roared at Kong again but he seemed to be going out of power and Kong pushes him in the face. After that we see few trucks of the Rallo which are entering one of the airports. We see some dead bodies of cops. Then we see Bill Chapman coming down from the truck and few other troops with him. Then we see that troops are taking out some large boxes around 12 feet and they're taking them to the bay of cargo plane. Then we see them attaching the boxes inside the bay and we see Bill and other troops which are getting on the plane. Then they shut doors and they sit on the chairs and they are lifting off and we see beautiful shots of cargo plane flying up. Then we see Bill inside which is smiling and he says today I will avenge my father, today we will revenge our family members. And the cargo plane flies in the clouds. Then we get back to Kong and Gorosaurus which are still fighting each other but Gorosaurus is trying to escape from Kong. But Kong decided that he will kill Gorosaurus no matter what and he would finish this nightmare once and for all. Then Gorosaurus hit his tail to Kong and soon he made his kangaroo kick. Kong got knocked out on the ground and Gorosaurus started digging the ground. Kong woke up and Gorosaurus had already climbed underground. Then Kong tried to dig the ground too but he felt so tired and he sat on the ground. He wanted to have a little nap, but then he saw Gorosaurus pulling his head from the ground, and he is roaring. Then Kong gets angry and he punches his chest. Then we see the cargo plane of the Rallo which is appearing from the sky, and it's launching the boxes of elixirs, and they all drop into the mouth of Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus feels strange, and he jumps up from the ground. He feels more free and stronger now. He feels like he is born to kill Kong, and he goes towards Kong. Kong tries to hit him but Gorosaurus quickly dodges and he hits his tail to Kong and he drops Kong on the ground. Kong tries to stand up but Gorosaurus jumps on him and he stands on him. Then he looks at Kong which is trying to stand up with evil face as hell. Then he roars as the sign of victory. Then he feels some pain in his stomach. He looks down and he sees that Kong plugged his axe in his stomach. Gorosaurus felt so big pain and Kong stood up. He took him through his tail and he threw Gorosaurus away. When Gorosaurus fell, axe got even more plugged and it increased the pain. Then he tries to swim in the ocean but Kong takes him through his tail and he throws him back to the city. Gorosaurus falls on the ground with so miserable face. Then Kong goes towards him but then we see cargo plane which is shooting at Kong. Kong jumps up and he damages the wing of cargo plane and cargo plane with Bill Chapman and others inside crashes. Then Kong looks back at Gorosaurus which is trying to stand up. Then Kong takes out his axe from the stomach of Gorosaurus and he hits him in the neck so strong and Kong cuts off the head of Gorosaurus. Then he throws his axe away and he roars. Then he feels tired and he gets passed out on the ground. Then we see Monarch members and military which are searching for survivors, cause city wasn't completely evacuated during the battle. Then we see George and Brooks which are arriving at Shanghai. Then George says, "Oh my God." Then Brooks came with him and he told him, "George, you were always right, but about this Gorosaurus I was right." Then George laughed and he looked back at Kong. We see that Kong is waking up. George gets scared and he tells Brooks to not move but Brooks laughs and he says that he is no threat to them. Then Kong stands up shakily. He looks at innocent people. Then he turns back and he starts going towards the beach. Brooks laughs and George gets a bit confused. Then Kong stops at the beach and he roars as the sign of victory. Then he starts swimming into the ocean and he disappears soon.
When you break it up, you'll see who had it all. You had it all. You said you wanted to fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, oblivion. Oh, go
In post-credit scene we see space, and we get to see Jupiter. Then we hear some monster sounds at the sky. In end credit scenes we see some underwater caves, and we soon get to see Air Pocket in there. Then we see Godzilla, which is sleeping there, but after 10 seconds he opens his eyes.